All right.
Hey,
Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's Sunday again, and here we are for another very important meeting where we're going to be studying the information about our relationship with the spiritual world. And the BSH welcomes everyone. And I would like to ask our dear sister Kiki to lead us on our opening prayer.
sure. So let us close our eyes, take a deep breath, and thank God for the amazing opportunity that we have to be together, gathering our hearts, focusing our mind in embedding who we are, in transforming ourselves into the best we can be. So thank you, Lord, for allowing us to access information, for allowing our conscience to think and to be aware of who we are, but most importantly, who we want to be. Thank you for all the mentors and the spirit guides who are supporting us, assisting us. Please bless and be with our dear sister Norah, to whom we are extremely grateful for her presence. May we all be open to hear with our heart and to have clear mind to absorb and reflect along the week. And with your permission, with your blessings, we ask for permission to start the meeting today. And so be it.
So be it. Thank you, Kiki. Well, everyone, this is Bezerra Spiritual Healing Center. At our center, we respect all religions and spiritual traditions. Uh, as a member of the United States Spiritist Federation, our beliefs are around scientific, philosophical, and religious principles of Spiritism according to Allan Kardec, who compiled that information. Emmanuel, one of our mentors, taught that knowledge and love are the wings of our spiritual evolution. So we have this Sunday session divided into two parts. The first part is a speaking part where participation is very important. We want you to be active listeners and participate when we open up for discussions of the topic presented. Your mentor is supporting with insights from the speaker, reflection, and working along the week to sustain the energy you are receiving while in the center. And the second part is our hands-on healing service. After the speaker finishes the presentation, we take a little break and then we come back and you have the option to stay on and receive spiritual healing through hands-on healing session. Okay, our center, we have a website that is bshcenter.org. And when you go into the website and you can see all the programming that we have throughout the week. We have activities every day, Monday through Monday. So everything's available to everyone, and we encourage you to participate. For example, on every day at 6 p.m. on our circle of prayers, where we together with other members who participate on healing prayers for the planet and for the loved ones that we have on our healing list. So throughout the week, we have several activities, and you're more than welcome to explore the website so you can see what we have going on. And if you choose to sign up, you just connect to the same link that you came in today, and you'll be connected with our service. So today we have a very special presentation by our good friend Norah Brazil, that we are welcome once again to our session. Nora, thank you. you don't need a presentation. We love you, and that's what matters. Okay, have a good one.
Good morning. Thank you. Yes, now we're good. We're family. Have everybody. Well, good morning for some of us, and some of us is good afternoon, right? So I hope everybody's doing absolutely lovely. It's been a while, so let's take at it. And today is such a beautiful message, and it's going to be from this book, Our Daily Bread. It's going to be chapter 10. We do have some slides, just if we're visual, right? Different learners and so forth. So would it be okay for me to share my screen? Awesome. All right, let me share. Okay, let me see. Where am I? And we are going to do the slideshow. So everybody can see there. Yes. All right. So let us get started. The title is Fraternal Sentiment from the book, right? By Spirit Emmanuel. And of course, psychographed by our dear and beloved Chico Xavier. So okay. We are hopefully going to be able to go into some of these questions that really are going to call out that fraternal sentiment in us. And these are some of the issues that hopefully towards the end of our studying together, we're able to just take thoughts and reflections with us and see where we're at, right? So one question that hopefully we can get to is, what if the greatest conflict is in learning to love, but unlearning everything that is not love or that love is not? Another question we can ask ourselves is, every I hate secretly protecting an I love? Would love still be a choice if heaven removed every difficulty, right, in our lives? Something a little bit more fun to think about. If love one another were a social media account, would its success be measured by millions of followers or by a handful of authentic relationships? Another thing in the moral tension of understanding love and fraternity, when two good intentions collide, what does love ask of us? And what about in relationships? What happens when loving one person seems to put us at odds with another? And last but not least, why is loving people around us sometimes so much harder than loving humanity? And Emmanuel is gonna bring in with us some of these really complex and hard questions about love and fraternity today. So let us get into it. So as we know, the format of this book, Emmanuel and Chico start with a beautiful passage of the Bible and then into the message. So this is how we begin. As for fraternal charity, however, you do not need me to write to you, since you yourselves have been taught by God to love one another. This is by Paul, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 9. And then we begin with the beautiful message. Emmanuel says, a strong contradiction that undermines the human contribution to the divine edifice of Christianity is the sectarian tendency that torments multitudes of its followers. If we were, if there were more reflection, if there were more attention to Jesus's teachings, such unwarranted battles would cease forever. Even today, with the manifestations from the spirit realm in the renewal of the world, individuals and groups appear all the time asking for formulas from the other side so that they may gather something in the arena of pure fraternity. However, Emmanuel says, what are enlightened human beings waiting for in order to truly become each other's brothers and sisters? Many people forget that true solidarity is rare in environments where there is little spirit of service, but an overabundance of criticism. Notable institutions fall on hard times and fail due to a lack of mutual help in the area of understanding, work, and goodwill. Is there really a lack of assistance? No. Every honest and generous endeavor resonates in the highest spheres to attract selfless collaborators. When an invasion of disharmony assaults into institutions of the good, the human agents involved should blame themselves for their lack of commitment or their indifference toward the act of serving. So let no one ask heaven for special recipes for fraternity, because we have the sacred and immutable formula in the words, love one another. Beautiful, right? So now let's break this a little bit more. And first thing, okay, let's do a quick recap. So what is the manual saying to us? Basically, it's saying we often divide ourselves instead of serving one another. What is it? It's the criticism. He says they can weaken our communities that are dedicating to doing the good. But the big question is, so is there a lack of assistance? And he says, no, heaven is not withholding any help, right? And heaven, of course, is it's like a symbolism of spirituality or whatever we believe in. That is the divine help, God, the light, the source. And then he ends with this beautiful thing, reminding us fraternity grows through service, understanding, and goodwill. So therefore, Jesus already gave us that formula, and that is to love one another. So in the whole capstone of what we're learning today is, what is loving one another, and how does that relate to those fraternal sentiments that we need when we are in this earth with difficulties, right? So first thing that we probably want to ask ourselves, okay, why is Emmanuel bringing in Paul, right? And we know Paul is formerly Saul. We've the book Paul and Stephen, a beautiful book, talks a little bit more about that. We know that after him being the persecutor, he actually becomes one of Christianity's earliest missionaries of his conversion. He travels all around creating these Christian communities. And so he's writing this letter, and this is the message to the Thessalonians. And who were the Thessalonians, right? They were a young Christian community learning to live their faith while facing persecution, uncertainty, and challenges as they were building that community together. So the big question is, why is he writing this letter? Okay, why is it that he could be doing so many things like complaining and putting himself in other places, but instead Paul is being that teacher, right? He's writing to them because he wants to encourage them, love one another. And what is beautiful, he even says, I don't need to remind you because God already told you. It's there, right? So now let us think, can we relate to the Thessalonians? And the answer, pretty much yeah, because see, let us recap. Thessalonians had new community. Well, us today, we're still trying to build new communities constantly. The Thessalonians were facing opposition at that time, right? They were still a young Christian community. Well, we're still experiencing disagreement and division. The Thessalonians were definitely wondering about the future, having a lot of these deeper, complex questions. We still search, right, for certainty and hope. We're still doing it. And most definitely, they were learning to love one another, and we are still learning to love one another. So even though the circumstances have changed in the reference of a historical timeline, the human question have not changed. They remain the same. So then, as we're reading through this and understanding a little bit of how beautifully Emmanuel brings in Paul and the Bible to help us understand and put ourselves in that shoes, a question could be, well, why do communities dedicated to doing the good still struggle with division, right? Perhaps because where there are humans, there will be humaning. And humaning, as we already know, is really messy, right? We're all in this human experience together. So now that we kind of understood a little bit, well, then how can we navigate this? What are we supposed to learn? Friends, this is just one perspective. There are many ways to look at it. But for the time being, and because we're in some time lapse here, let us think of the word three. There are three paths that we towards fraternity that we can hold on to Emmanuel's hand, because it's tough as we're reading this and diving into. So one of the first things that we are going to see that Emmanuel's trying to help us is accepting conflict, as part of fraternity. Of course, fraternity is practicing fraternity. We got to do the work. Most definitely, fraternity is also challenging love and what that means. So, first thing that Emmanuel is saying, all right, guys, we're going to be accepting conflict. That is part of fraternity and that fraternal sentiment, right? But not seeing that human conflict is not an exception, but instead it's part of the human experience. So when he says in the passage, a strong contradiction undermines the human contribution, we are really seeing how Emmanuel brings in those words that they will be colliding. All right. But let's take this a minute. Let's understand this, how we are living with it. All right. So, first, we have a course in Spiritism, the Gospel. And I think it's chapter 3, section Worlds of Test and Atonement. And the whole chapter talks a little bit about earth and where we're at as far as our levels. But a beautiful quote by St. Augustine says, the earth offers an example of world of atonement, where spirits must struggle against both the perversity of humanity and the challenges of nature. Yet these very struggles develop the qualities of the heart and the intelligence. St. Augustine. So even the spirits, along with Kardec, are telling us, no matter what, this is earth. The earth is a world of atonement. We're going to need this. But just because there will be conflict, it doesn't mean anything. We need those challenges to develop those qualities, right? So one, we see it, Spiritism, the Bible tells us we're going to be around it. So we need to accept it. But it's interesting because even as humans in our curiosity, we have to see how we need to accept conflict, how to learn from it, and how to navigate through it. In literature, it's beautiful. Fiction books, I always say, yeah, it's fiction, but if you really analyze the characters and everything, writers sit there with intentions to try to help us. So there's, of course, the classical book, Lord of the Flies. Here we probably read it in high school, right? And in this book, we have this young group of boys. They were fighting war and then they get stranded in this island. So here we would think, well, there's no society, no civilization, there are no humans. There's nothing to have them input anything. And we would think, would they have survived? They would get along. But it's interesting because within the story, the boys, they don't really have that. There's some that are in conflict with each other. So their society disappears and all the external pressures of survival that they had. And we see that conflict grows from fear, power, and survival. And then there's another book, I Who Have Never Known Man. It's a great book. If you're put it on your TBR list, friends, it's amazing. And this was so different because now this is a group of women, and all of a sudden in this dystopian society, women disappear, women are imprisoned, right? And so these women are in these cells. And in this particular story, it's all older women with a young girl. And the perspective of the story is actually told from the young girl who grows up in cells, in those cells. And suddenly, a security guard drops the keys and everybody disappears. And they're like, so how are we going to eat? What is it? We're in this cell. So they're able to escape. And when they escape, they're in some unknown place. Make a long story short, without giving too much of the story, these women end up seeing that they were like literally the only cohort that survives this island. And just the relationships of this encounter is very interesting because we would think in this world that Hartman creates, they have electricity, they have water, they have every single resource. The only thing is that they don't know where they're at. And and most importantly, they're finally free. They are no longer in jail. And we would think the ladies would be okay. No, they're actually in constant conflict, and they even start to create little groups. And so the protagonist, right, the narrator of this story, she's just like, wow, I grew up in this jail, and she herself had some conflicts as to how she felt, right? So it's so beautiful when we see humans in literature trying to tell us that no matter what, there will be conflicts. If fiction is not our thing, all right, there's research, right? So there's the Robbers Cave experiment from 1954 as well. And so this one, actually, the social psychologist takes a group of young boys, and as soon as he introduces competition, the boys start to like go at it, right? And then they say, okay, now let's have some shared goals. And after all that, finally, the cooperation emerges, right? This conflict cooperation understanding of the human mind is so interesting, in how Emmanuel too is trying to end spiritism, seeing that no matter at what, as humans, there will be conflict. But the interesting thing here is conflict can emerge naturally, but so can fraternity when people unite around a common purpose. So we are starting to see how even though there is conflict, there is still goodness in there, right? And yesterday was 4th of July, so I was like, hey, let's bring in an American artist. Norman Rockwell has amazing art, and he has everything is, I wish I could bring all of them. Every portrait that he creates is really a picture of a human, right? And we have some that are really navigate a little bit on as far as like, well, where does my fraternal sentiment come in, right? We have the golden rule, right? The one that we've seen a lot, especially on social media, the problem we all live with. The second one right here. We have the four freedoms, a little bit political. We have this painting, the gossip, how do rumors come into to understanding, right, our relationships and that fraternal sentiment. Girl at the mirror, she's looking at herself. That's the internal conflicts that we have sometimes. How do we resolve those? Number 6, it's called the great debate. We have a young couple here. They're debating, the baby's crying. So what happens in conflicts in a romantic or in a marriage relationship? The child psychology, that's the teacher in me. I'm like, yeah. Curiosity, misunderstanding, and learning is a huge step of growth and development. And so a lot of people have a lot to say in society and within families. How do children come in the picture? How do we teach them, right? That's a big question in society. And then this one, number 8, this portrait is entitled Moving Day. And we can see 2 groups of kids, right? 2 ethnicities here. And the big question that Norman can even bring to us is that you see there is an adult in the vehicle. How will the adult react versus the kids, right? So these are some of these ordinary moments that bring up about extraordinary questions about how to accept conflict and how to navigate through it, right? So now, this is not for us to lose hope, because even if we go back to Manuel, he's a tough teacher, right? But it's not for us like, I'm going to give up because anyway, there's nothing. No. Let us think about this way. Every generation continues building what the previous one began. So we all have these feelings that we long for unity, yet remain also individuals, right? We seek peace, yet we experience conflict. We desire fraternity, but yet we are still learning how to live it. So these tensions perhaps are not the failures of humanity, but they're part of our education of the soul. They're pointing us toward a deeper truth. So yes, there's conflict, but there's hope. All right. The next thing that Emmanuel is saying, all right, so now that we accept conflict, we know it exists, we need it. Now we need to practice that fraternity. So it's not that we are discovering it along the way, it's that as we practice it, right, we become better at it. So Emmanuel says, if there were more attention to Jesus's teachings, that's how he reflects for us and puts that thought for us. So we're going to think about this. Practicing can be many, many things. So how about we say there are perhaps 3 things that can really guide us into it. One is surviving, right? So seeing it as fraternity is surviving, fraternity is healing, and fraternity is creating. So let us start with like expression 1. Expressing fraternity as surviving, right? I'm trying not to make things worse. So you see this picture, we have so much around us. Sometimes it really is surviving that is the biggest act of fraternity. In the Gospel, chapter 3, Earth's Destiny, right, the cause of earthly miseries, we are reminded, so this right, that this earth is a world of more education. It's the hospital, it's the prison, it's the school. We're learning. So we know it's not going to be easy. It's going to be tough. So yes, sometimes we are, no, we are surviving. I'm like, we're surviving. So what do we do? How can I be fraternal? Things like, I don't say what I wanted to say, right? Sometimes we need to do that. Sometimes it's, I don't return hurt for hurt. I I love this one. I stop the cycle with me, right? A lot of generational trauma and all these things. I stop it here. I admit when I'm wrong. That's a big one. And at the end of the day, I'm just simply not to try and make things worse. So that's one way that we can really just look at it. The next thing, well, fraternity is also healing. Like I'm learning how to live with others. So in chapter 11 of the gospel, right, we are all familiar pretty much with the render unto Caesar what is to Caesar's selection. We know that the Pharisees were trying to trick Jesus and asking him, right, the question like, what belongs to who? And his answer was like, give to Caesar and to Caesar and so forth, right? To God, to God. So there, the Spirit tells us this is not about the money or anything. It's about respecting, right? So the Spirit reminds us that fraternity means respecting dignity, rights, and freedom of others. It's that balance in our life. So we give each what is due. We respect each other's paths, understanding we're learning together. So fraternity in healing is important. So some of the things, for example, listening instead of trying to fix it. That is fraternity, right? Giving someone space. What a healing thing. Respecting the differences. That's a huge one. This one, resting when needing. Yeah, sometimes we need that healing for ourselves. Letting people grow at their own pace, saying no with kindness or being patient. These are just some of those beautiful examples where we see that balance in life, and we're honoring ourselves, but we're also honoring others, right? As Jesus taught us, and we are doing this beautiful healing. And that's a great way for us to see. And the third thing, friends, that I think this is the fun way of how we are practicing fraternity, it's really we're helping create something beautiful. So yes, I'm surviving. Yes, I'm also healing, but I'm also creating. We need stuff on this planet. And in the book, we say, if we reflected more in Jesus's teachings, right? Well, let's look a little bit of what Jesus did to teach us, right? Because he was always creating. He was fraternity, right? He is literally the definition. But let's not just think about the miracles that he did, which are beautiful, but he had an everyday life. So what are some of the things that he focuses his energy to create and create something beautiful for this planet? First, he was carpenter. He worked. He did stuff, right? That beautiful story of the wedding of Cana, he was celebrating too, like he was having a good time, right? He always loved to share meals. Yes, we have the beautiful passage of when he fed the 5,000, right? But he was always with the disciples. We know the book, Jesus at Home too. We see how every conversation was him sitting at meals. He loved to tell stories. That's beautiful. We have a lot of literature, right? We have a lot of things. Well, guess who founded it? Like Jesus was one of those that really enjoyed all of this. He gathered community. He loved to walk. He was always walking. He was always visiting homes. He was like socializing, something really beautiful. You know, Jesus was one to like touch. Maybe people don't even want to touch anybody else, right? They were maybe right, but Jesus didn't care. And it wasn't about the miracle, like, oh, he touched, he's healing. No, he was one to hug. He was one to be close to others. He loved nature, right? We see, and he would pray. So he goes hand in hand because he was always praying and he was always studying. He was always navigating and walking and doing all these things with nature. And these things that he lived daily are incredible because that is and was and continues to be fraternity. But it wasn't just that. Like something really beautiful that also Jesus did. He traveled a lot, right? He went to different places that the Bible connects us with. Like, of course, he lives in Nazareth, but he would go to the Sea of Galilee, all the things that he would do there. He would go to where he did the Beatitudes, right? So the Mount of Beatitudes, Jerusalem, the Garden of Gethsemane, the Mount of Olives. So all these beautiful places, like he was a retreat. What's so beautiful, yes. So if you've traveled, friends, it's great. Traveling is fun, right? And that was, yes. But when he was there, and Jesus's footsteps were places that fraternity took root. So he just didn't go to these places. It was like, no, he made them purpose. He made them places of encounter. So when we look at some of these things that Jesus did, these actions that we can relate as humans, no, we're not Jesus, right? But we can relate to them. We can see, oh my gosh, he was constantly creating as he was going through life as well. So the fraternity continues with us. We see that the places have changed, perhaps from, with Jesus as a story here, but the invitation has is for us to continue to create, because we need to do the good, right? We can create, we can paint, we can design, we can learn, read, teach, study, the healing, care for the sick, go visit someone. Let's care for nature. We welcome people in our homes. We love, like, by listening, by forgiving, we sing, we share, we serve, we innovate, we celebrate culture. And when we start to see these things that we do today, it was Jesus teaching us, this is how we create. This is how we can be having amazing fraternal sentiments that also balance our life and elevate, right, the frequency of this planet. So as we're wrapping those three thoughts, let us say, all right, so go back to Emmanuel saying, will people look for heaven? And you might not going to get that, right? But it doesn't mean we're not getting help. He says we are. But it's us that have to do the work. So let's think of it like this. Yes, heaven inspires, but humanity builds. And in that that is the best way to think of it, and how we can amplify that fraternal sentiment, right? Okay, so we've talked about 1, accepting there will be conflicts, and then 2, we can create our fraternal sentiments in multiple ways. And then the third thing, right? Emmanuel ends, well, you don't need the secret formula. We already have it. The formula is love one another. So we need to challenge it. Challenging love means, like, for challenging the fraternity of loving one another. It's taking love, in other words, it's taking love further, especially when love is difficult. What does this mean? Okay, so it's trying to say, we look what Emmanuel says. If there were more reflections, that means we need to ask the questions. We need to instigate, investigate, to research, agree to disagree, and do all these things, because that is what it is. Love one another, right? We have this idea, and it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. The cheesy love, I love it too. Get me wrong, friends. I watch movies, I read some books that are so cheesy. I love it. I love it. We already know what's gonna happen. Happily ever after. Love it. And that's great. We need the balance. But in our day-to-day, in reality, loving one another, it is a challenge. So we need to ask, well, how does it look? And sometimes, and this is me, my perspective, I was thinking about it, like, sometimes a lot of the difficulties can emerge in how each of us sees love. And sometimes when we don't agree of it, that's where the conflicts start. But if we challenge it, if we have more reflections, we step out of our shoes, right? Like walking someone else's shoes for a minute, we can see that love is different. So I'm not going to read all of this because I think we're running out of time. But for example, we think caring for an aging parent may require just as much love as someone who is leading an international humanitarian organization, right? Learning to forgive after years of pain may take just as much courage as, I say, someone who's going to sit there and compose a masterpiece. Love this one. Reading a bedtime story may shape one future as deeply as writing a book read by millions. Helping a struggling student may matter as much as founding an entire school. Listening to one friend may change the life as much as those that speak to thousands. Preparing dinner for a family after a long day may build humanity too, as quietly as changing history. So these different versions of what is love, how do we measure it? Sometimes, oh, we see all these, oh, doing this, discovering the breakthrough and everything, and then we overlook those little, and they're not so little, right? We overlook the other things, the daily things, the day-to-day actions that we do of fraternity, of service, of charity. They are love. So, you know what? We can say this, and this is like a metaphor. Perhaps heaven does measure love differently than we do, and this is where we come in, and we have to start imagining love differently and respecting where everyone is. In other words, right? So, yes, we want to question it. So we accept love one another, we practice it, we constantly question it. In other words, we need to keep reflecting it. Because Jesus, Paul, Emmanuel, Kardec, Spiritism, they're already giving us those words. Love, fraternity, charity. We probably, some of us have we have all the verses memorized, we can bring it, and that's great. But in this lesson that Emmanuel is teaching us today, maybe he's not saying, let's not define it anymore. That's lower level, right? In the Bloom's taxonomy, when we define, that's great. Let's synthesize it. Let's go out there and live it. Let's discover all of this again and again and all of this meaning, let's discover love, let's discover fraternity, let's discover the challenges and accepting by posing those questions that sometimes it's really hard. It makes us uncomfortable, throws us out of our comfort zone or all, but when we do, we learn. And that is why we go back to, yes, we do have the mentors. We do know that earth will be a place of atonement, right? We have literature, we have art, music, movies, so much inspiration to show us that how to navigate conflict, how to understand a little better, but most importantly, when we practice it in our daily lives and look at Jesus' teaching, we are building. So heaven inspire, humanity builds. Most importantly, friends, if we have time for these questions, let's not think about for the answer that they give, but more importantly, how these questions will help us who we become. And that is the beautiful message by Emmanuel today. I don't know if we want to leave the questions or if we want something more, or we just want to talk. It's up to you all. That's it. Anybody? Am I still here? I can't see you all.
Yeah, I'm speechless.
Oh, okay, fine. Oh, my dear sister. Yes. So,
Oh, yeah. Sister, I think you know, you let me think, because as I said, I'm speechless. And I think that it genuinely touched my heart because I remember once when I think that we were starting COVID, like all that period. And then Dr. Bezerra gave a message about the importance of fraternity and how fraternity is almost the source of the solution for the world. And it always kept me thinking, and this is something that I try to teach Livia as much as possible, because if anything, if she becomes someone fraternal, like I think that I've accomplished my mission, and anything else she will learn by herself, I'm sure. And I think that you just gave us like breadcrumbs on how to keep thinking and reflecting, because to your point, it's hard. To your question, like these questions, like they are the tension, like how, like it's difficult, like when you say in every I hate there's secretly protecting an I love. Like if we just stop there and keep thinking about the things that hurt us, and then why like why did it hurt and how do I overcome all of that? Um, yeah, so I think, one thing that I always like to provoke for discussion, and also because of course I want to keep thinking and learning and get everybody's perspective, is why do you think it is so hard? Just one second, Livia, I'm speaking. What do you think that is so hard for someone to be fraternal? Like,
Oh yeah.
knowing what we know, why sometimes it is so hard?
And it's so interesting because that's where I literally sat there for maybe a day, and these were the type of conflicts that I myself had. Like, whoa, I wouldn't know. Like, um, for me, it was like, what happens when we love something or someone so much that it's at odds with someone else? Like, oh, in my sense, I'm being fraternal because I believe this and I love this, right? But automatically, I'm excluding those that do not love what I love. Oh my God, it's very hard. Yeah.
I think it's selfishness and pride it also is included in that because they also, with selfishness and pride, you want to control and you want to control the mind. But what you've been giving us is like a recipe to resolve a lot of these differences, and that's huge because we need to learn to accept people's differences because we're not exactly the same. We have the same Father, in heaven, but we are individual thinkers, you know, and that's important too. And so to let people be where they are or how they want to be, if they ask for your style or your information, they're opening the door. And when they open the door, you let them have what you have without being pushy and demanding. At our picnic yesterday, I talked to two different people, and one who had throat cancer, and she listened and listened, and then and she asked me questions, and I told her about my spiritual stuff, and then I asked her, well, where do you think this cancer and stuff came from or rooted from? Oh, it's hereditary. I let her have it. That's, you know, I let her have it. And then the other one was talking about his well-being, his health, and he wanted to understand it more. I told him some of my stuff. He said, "Well, I'm interested. I'm going to get in touch with you. Let him do it on his terms. You know what I'm saying? I'm not pushing." But I think it's interesting, because if that door doesn't open for you and you don't question it, you're not ready. You want to have it your own way. And you can't push on people's way of believing in God. That's it in a nutshell for me, anyway. That's it for me. Thanks. David.
Nor always it's so amazing, no? We're missing your speech, missing your divine presence with us too. We miss you. It is a fraternal topic that is, I always said, if we want to evolve in this lifetime, that we have been so many times repetitively come back to different life experience that is important for our lessons. But we have been Christian for long. It's not first time. As we are now more open for spiritism to understand how the spiritual life goes and how the spirit lives their life. Because we are open, we are getting out the old patterns, no? And we go back, all the teachings Paul brings to us, he brought the problem that we still facing today. So for us, when we face repetitively the same stuff, it is a lack of attention, a lack of desire to really want to move forward to and one thing that Jesus taught throughout his thoughts uh, is about judgment, criticism, and the biggest teaching of him was what? Love God above all. Yesterday we have on our prayer group the message from Moses, no, about the Ten Commandment, but and then talk about Jesus, the Christ, no, and it came Jesus so resume it in only two. No, to love God above all, have respect for Him, because if you were loving someone more than we are not loved. If we admire and follow other without God, so we should not know God. No judgment here, because everybody will be getting there. But in the second one, when he resume it and say, love your neighbor. No, you want to say you already love God and have God's in everything you do in your life is God above all. So we have to ask that question to us. Is God above all to everything? Everything without exception. So when we say love your neighbor, but Jesus always says the message is so clear as you love yourself. The problem is there sometimes we think we are loving Jesus, loving others more than us, and that is not right. How can I express love throughout myself? Because God is within. It's not outside. It's not in religions. It's not in the Mount Tabor. It is not in the Everest mountain. No, God is within. And the others, where these others are, within. Because when I learn to love myself, I learn to respect myself. And when we learn to respect yourself, it do not allow the others to punish you, to push you down, to criticize you, to judge you. No, because we have no rights to judge and criticize anyone because we do not know what they are going through. Like you said throughout the lesson today, we have to have fraternity with others' difficulties, hard to understand the path they are in and no, we don't know the darkness they are. We don't know. We have to be light for others. And if we cannot be light, we just need to, like you said, silence, pray, and embrace them. Embrace them with love. Embrace ourselves. Be patient with ourselves. Because when we say, you can do it. Stand up again. Do it again. That is why we come back here so many times. Okay, this time will be better. And then we have this amazing group of spirit who trust in us, believe in us, and come with us. So it is a wonderful topic for all of us. And I have notes and pictures from all your screens because it is things for us to what to do to evaluate, reevaluate. Am I being fraternal with my own self? Because if I'm not have fraternity within, I will not be fraternal with anybody else. I will not be a light for anybody else outside. And I cannot say I love I love my neighbor. That is my truth, no? And I question Tanya when Tanya is criticized, when Tanya is judging, when Tanya is doing something wrong. I question this. I said, wow, are you really loving God above all? Thank you so much for your speech. I miss you. Come more time, please.
Kiki, Kiki, no, you're never surprised. You came up with such an inspirational presentation. That is another masterpiece that I appreciate it so much. And that brings to mind that this little book, the Daily Bread, is so inspiring. And each lesson, it's amazing. It's bringing the best out of all the presentations that we've seen so far. So it's really enlightening. I love the aspect that you brought the analogy with the Lord of Flies. And what a way to connect with the youngsters, okay? Because they know about the movie, they know the story, but you brought something else that inspired them. And this idea about is conflict versus competition. So conflict is competition, right? We're competing another. We have a soccer game coming up and there's competition. On the other hand, fraternity is cooperation. So that's the biggest difference that our society, that's part of being humans, we develop this concept of competing. Let the stronger be the survival of the fittest. And that's, we learned from Darwin that research evolution in the animals. And he discovered, okay, he mentioned just not so many times that's survival of the fittest, but he mentioned over 200 times in his work cooperation. That's the key to survive. So, but society chose competition in order to establish its fundamental values, and we still caught up on that. So I would say that not as a teacher, your teacher or your students are in a very privileged space because they have you with this amazing perspective that can enrich any kind of lesson. And I would suggest that this presentation converted into a book form because it might be read by millions of people. And that's your creativity because it's beautiful. The presentation is awesome. We got to watch it again. Well, and the idea that creating is being present. Like Jesus, in those states that you demonstrate that Jesus was doing all those things, he was present everywhere. So that's the idea of being alive and being present. So Heaven really inspires and humanity builds. And that's what we're doing here now in this experience as human beings, because we have a lot to create, and especially creating the new I, the new you. That's the inner renovation. So I really appreciate so much your presentation. I miss you. You should show up some more. Okay? Very good.
You're too kind, but yeah, I love your perspective too, brother, because I thinking about the youngsters, they too need to start learning about fraternity and involving them. And they're the audience, what is it that kids like and what are they into, right? I think even one of the questions, if love one another was like an app or a social media, was it about the followers? Did you want 1 million followers, or do you want just three, but you know those three are authentic, right? So those kind of questions too with our youngsters are important because they are also the future, right? And just like and I love too, Miss Tanya, what you brought about the reincarnation. I think it's a
Right.
great way to really work on now those sentiments. We know Joanna De Angelis, and one of the studies we did together in the book Gratitude, it was a beautiful study and talked about those shadows that we have to
Exactly.
get out there. And that's part of those sentiments to get to love one another. Oh boy, does it take a long work. But it's interesting. I was thinking about this too. Let's say it's the Thessalonians and us, 2000 years. Oh, it's a long time. But is it, when we really think about evolution and the billions of years of, and then if you think about eternity, we don't really I can't even caption what is time, how is it? Maybe 2000 is not too much time. Maybe it's right. We still have so much to learn, but it's a message of hope because it has not stopped. If the message has stopped, I was like, if the message has stopped, then yes, oh my gosh, I would panic. But it hasn't, because we have so many platforms in history, in the present, and to come, where we as humanity, as part of our evolution, like I said, we're
Yeah.
building that those sentiments to become brighter, to become lighter, to become more enlightened, right? And thinking too, like with the book by Andre Luis, you know how he comes in El Solar, he explains to us how when he comes to Earth, the density, that thick fogness that's still there, okay, right? Hopefully one day those layers start to go, and then as we're into the world of regeneration, right? Things start to look out a little bit better for us. But I do have to say, some of the young kids working with them, I start to see how they're involved. Some of those kids, I'm like, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with what they have for us today. I'm like, wow.
Very good.
Oh
Very
yeah.
good. I must confess that I'm inspired with the sentiment of envy. There's a difference between envy and jealousy. So I'm envy of how much you contribute because you never know how you can impact others. So I'm inspired by envy because I want to just do like you did, invest on this love because what a mother have you become to all these children, to all of us. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nora, for this nice presentation. And that was, you came back with a good thing for everybody. That is very important. You said that the conflict grows from memory, uncertainty, and emotional wounds. Where does it come from? When it begins from the childhood, from the birth of the child. And we should take very good care of that. That is very important. And what we do with that, we here see the TV, what shows for the children. We see the families, they buy the killing toys for the children, gun and something like that. The books that we have for the children, don't talk to the stranger. And you see, when we are learning to live together, and learning is our action, the parents, the teachers, and the society. And in society, we don't see that. We see the families, they are challenging together in front of the children. They are talking to each other very bad words, and they expect that the children learns good things. That is impossible. First, we should take care of the education system. Education system is the most important thing. Otherwise, when we read the books for the adult, is not enough. We don't have enough good books for the children. Look in the library of the schools, childcare, that I go sometimes and check it. You know, there is nothing that we can bring this love your neighbor or love each other, love together comes the best thing. But we have to learn that is enough, that we have not, for example, many child centers in spirituality centers. You know, we talk us mostly with the adult, and that is not enough. We should take care more of the children. That is my problem with myself, that I think too much about the children, and I think when we can live together, we can bring the kingdom on the earth as it is in heaven. Thank you.
A wonderful presentation, Nora. Thank you for all the cool slides to look at with all the questions and concepts to review. When like what kind of came to me on this is after many years of me trying to work on myself, of finally getting to points where within the struggle, lesson, whatever you want to refer to it as, I have time where I can step back a little now and review what I'm doing. Like, is this my old pattern? Is this what I want to do? How is this affecting others? Like, I get to a point that I can question within the experience instead of just reacting like I did before, and a lot of that reaction was just because I was uncomfortable with something. Wasn't able to put my finger on it, but I'm pushing back to what I don't like. But the interesting part to me also is these insights come when they come. And I found for me, I couldn't force them. They just all of a sudden I noticed, oh wow, I'm like engaging with this experience way more than I have in the past. I'm able to rationalize it, to look and say, wow, how am I impacting others beyond myself? Where in ways I wasn't able to get there before because I blocked myself from that. And that comes when it comes, and it probably comes at different stages for everyone. But it kind of leans to last Sunday's, to me, tying these together, that faith. Like I can start to build my faith now because I see the results. I'm experiencing them firsthand instead of the quote unquote struggles I associated to the past. So I can see the value of the lesson. I can see the value of me pulling myself back and saying it's not all about you, you're impacting others. And all these questions are wonderful. They're part of the process. And like many of you referred to, this is not easy. It does not, you don't just decide, at least for me, I'm going to change myself, and a year later I'm changed. A year later, I'm still struggling with the same stuff, asking why I haven't changed yet, So keeping it like in perspective. This is not going to be something you just decide to do. This is a lifetime. And a lot of this, I reside in the fact now I may not get to all of it this time because I'm starting to understand just how much work it is to, gain the lesson of the experiences. So wonderful presentation. I agree with everything you stated and all the things you shown. I was like, oh, it's exactly where I'm aimed. I'm getting there little by little, but the process continues. And the other thing I'd like to say to everyone, we got to be good to ourselves, because just taking this on to, like, I see a lot of things that talk about being a good human, little sayings, and I'm like, wow, that's what it is. How do I allow myself to be a good human? And that takes a lot of time, a lot of patience, a lot of courage, a lot of frustrations mixed in. It's everything. But if you keep doing it consistently, it will pay off. And that's, like I say, how I'm building my faith. I'm seeing the results and I'm saying, oh, it all works, but it's not overnight. Nothing really occurs too much overnight for me, at least. But thank you. Good to see you, and wonderful presentation. Thank you.
In the interest of time, I'll say this quickly. I too enjoyed your presentation. For most of it, I was driving, so I couldn't see many of the slides. But what I really, really liked was how you actually told the story. That's what I want to call it, because it was like storytelling. And you had this flow about you, and you would connect things, and you could feel that energy that you brought to the presentation as well. And so I knew people would comment on all the other things, but you got me from the beginning when you started talking about, so what is love? And so, well, love can turn to hate, and hate can turn to love. Oh my goodness. I didn't know it was going to be a great story then. You just got me with that opening. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that. Thank you so much.
Ken, the good thing is that you can go back to YouTube and watch it, as I'm sure all of us are going to do over and over. The slides will be there.
Yes, thank you.
And we have teachers here, Mosen and Nora. I think Ken is teacher too, no? So we have great teachers
Sheila, even
here. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
a
you.
lot of educators.
Hi.
All
Love
right, everyone. Anybody else?
I just wanted to say, like, just to finalize, that I listened to everyone's comments, so beautiful, and absolutely, we've taken something that, sometimes, like you say, Robbie, we hear it all the time, we see it all the time, and be kind, be a better human, but at the end of the day, it does take work. It takes work. But yes, well, there's some beautiful things that we don't, right? Just like Jesus, the miracles and everything were beautiful manifestations of the best thing of fraternity, him giving that to, but there's also the day to day that he also left with us as examples. So we cannot dismiss our day to days, the little things, and bringing in that awareness. not dismissing, because even like preparing a meal for someone, sharing a meal, the intention and the energy there of fraternity is beautiful. And let's keep asking those tough questions so that we can learn. So and I want to say thank you for every single one of you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, everyone, if this is it, let's take just a couple minutes break. We're going to go to the second part, and that's for the hands-on healing passes, spiritual passes. Okay, we'll see you in 2 minutes.